Okay, let's talk about You're Breaking My Heart by author olugbemisola rhuday perkovich, because I just went on Goodreads. I just finished this book and the rating is like 3.3 stars. Like, what the fuck? Like, this book is delightful. Like, I don't want to, I'm not trying to downplay, like, it is about, intense grief. It has a lot of emotions. It brought up a lot for me. But it's delightful in the sense that I can tell that the author is allowing herself to just show up in her fullness in this writing in a way that I have never seen in a book, without, like, totally throwing, I'd say, everything out the door. Like, I think at the end, a lot of people don't like the ending because there's a lot of different conventional changes. It's like weird, it's crazy, it's going different places. And I think for me, there's things I don't like it for other reasons, but there's something very real and raw about it still that I love, because there's so many times at the end where she could have just faked this out and been like, it was all just a dream. This they didn't actually go underground, Like, this was all just a, metaphorical representation of Harriet's internal turmoil and trauma. But she kept us with the fantastical world and with the real emotional world in a way that at moments could use slightly more grounding, but feels real. Like, I think to me at least, it speaks to the way that so many times life just feels so unreal, like, feels so crazy. I love the scene when Luke and Nika are, like, at the, underground prom, and they keep just being assholes. They keep on, saying their shit about, like, oh, these weirdos, like, these weirdos, these lame nerds, what do they think they are, trying to be mean to us? And it's like, what? Like, I think that there's such a casual cruelty to the status quo, a casual cruelty in how we treat nonconformity, how we treat neurodivergence, how we treat sensitivity in our society, that is captured so well in this book, because it's like there are these people who say they love us and say they're family and say they care about us, but then they're not able to fully see us. And because of how we have been treated, because of how our feelings have been invalidated our whole lives, because of, honestly, just the cruelty of going through the American school system, of living in this world, of living in a racialized body, living in a female body, whatever. You learn to minimize your pain. You learn to minimize your feelings. You learn to be small and full of shame. Like that moment where she's swimming and it's horrible and she just keeps swimming and swimming and swimming and swimming and swimming, and Benoit X or whatever, honestly, I didn't like him. I feel like he's the one that I'll be like, he felt like a real character, but like in a bad way. Like, I felt like he wasn't, I don't know, it's probably just because he's like more white or whatever. Like, I'm just kind of like, he wasn't really giving me what I wanted. Like, I don't know, I just wanted to be more in Harriet's brain and kind of more in that world. I feel like his intention, his goal, I don't know, that fell flat for me. And then because that was also kind of a longer drawn out scene, and just I don't know, but anyway, like, he's like, that's the shame that you've been swimming in. That's the shame you've been swimming in. It's like you go to the pool and you think that you're letting go of that shame, but you're not. And was it a little blunt? Yes. But shit, it's like we have these things that we love these things that help us cope with all the difficulties in the world. Maybe it's swimming, maybe it's art, maybe it's writing, whatever. These things that give us this moment of relief where we feel like we can finally breathe. Everything else feels like hell, but that's our place. But in that coping, in that escape, we don't actually escape ourselves. We aren't actually letting go of that shame, which I think the first part of letting go of shame, letting go of pain, which maybe it never goes away fully, but the first part of learning how to exist with it, learning how to let it not rule your life, is to sit with it, to face it, to be with it. And so I feel like so many of us are learned to be ruled by shame. We learn to fear ourselves, to fear our emotions, to fear who we are. You know, the imagery of her just going to the Catholic Church again and again and again and again, almost like this compulsion. The way that the church so often makes us feel small, makes us feel like we are bad and in need of this constant repentance, where just the image of her just running out and never even listening to what, the Father is saying, it's like there's no genuine connection and healing there. It's just an attempt to kind of offload something. And with the idea of compulsion, I also just want to, I'm not trying to diagnose Harriet. That's not the goal. But I use my own understanding of various disabilities and mental disorders to understand characters. That's the lens through which I view things. And so for me, kind of this compulsive need, kind of this voice constantly in her head, kind of the feeling like she killed her brother even though objectively she didn't do it, but often there's like this guilt that people can hold where it's like, maybe it's just as simple as the last conversation we had didn't go well and that really hurts. Or it's like, could I have done more? Could I have saved them? It's like, I think if in this book he had died from suicide, that would have felt very, very different. The kind of the randomness of gun violence, the horrible randomness of gun violence. Sometimes I think with death, there's this feeling that if you caused it, if you believe that you caused it, there's this feeling that perhaps you could have prevented it, even though that's not true. But it's kind of about control. And so I kind of think about OCD and the way that can manifest for people, the way that you can just have these horrible voices in your head telling you that if you don't do this, someone's going to die. If you don't do this, someone's going to die. Da, 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 da. And more so than just, OCD, but like that feeling that you need to constantly do something in order to be okay, to keep that you need to do those compulsions to kind of keep those overwhelming anxieties at bay. And so the part where she sees all these different universes where things are slightly different, maybe her hair is slightly different, maybe, she doesn't say that, maybe he says it, whatever, all these different universes. And then the guy's just like, I don't know what to tell you. Like, either way, Tunde is gonna die. Again, emotionally, that scene, something was just slightly off with that scene, and Benoist, or whatever his name is, like, it just wasn't quite there for me. But I feel like sometimes to confront a grief like this, you need supernatural, fantastical, crazy interaction. Like, I don't know how to explain it. It's like it's like if I'm sitting here in grief and I believe that I killed my brother, it's like, what do I need to not believe that? Well, what if I saw every single possible universe where that day happens, and where I do anything, I do all these different things, and he still dies, then I know it was not my fault. But I still feel like it's my fault. So what do I do with that? It's like, it's kind of like impossible answers to impossible questions. And I think that what olugbemisola does so well is kind of gives space to that impossibility, gives space to the impossibility of grief. Throughout the book, there are all these different little memories of them, of Nika, Tunde, Luke, and Harriet together, as kids, growing up, all these different moments, all the moments that really paint our lives, that give them texture, that maybe you wouldn't, sit and think this was the most important day or this was so meaningful, but it happened. It means something. There's kind of that impossibility of our lives, that kind of miracle of our existence in and of itself, and the miracle of the interactions that we get to have with one another, like the way that after grief there's no chance to go back. There's no chance to heal these relationships in real time. You have to live with it. And so, from the kind of description of this book, there's kind of this sense that maybe Harriet and this new girl will kind of become besties and escape together. So then a strange girl shows up at Harriet's high school, a girl who loves the same weird books Harriet does, who doesn't vibe with anyone at school the same way Harriet does, and that different world suddenly seems possible. The girl speaks of a place underneath the subways of New York where people like them can go and find a home. And then the last line is, will Harriet open the door? And so you see with a lot of YA books, kind of the narrative structure, the meat of it, the content is child has difficult life, something's going on at home. Often in these books, but also just often in real fucking life, there's just a lack of genuine, unconditional love, care, and presence for these children. And that manifests in so many different ways, and I think is also influenced by our society, by capitalism, by individualization. We're not living in villages, we're not living in abundant, generous community with one another most of the time. The way that racism, not only divides us from one another, but also divides us from ourselves, separates us, and really sinks into and harms our families. There's so many different things. And also just, I think a lot of times just, we're not taught how to love. We're not taught how to love one another, And so one book that I read a while ago that is different, but kind of, it's very different, but takes a kind of the type of ending that I was maybe expecting from this book to a degree is, I'm looking for it right now. I totally forgot its name. What is its name? Oh my gosh. It's like Salt in something. It's like Salt in the Water by Candace Illo. So Salt in the Water, it is very different writing style, very different feeling to it. But essentially, I'll just read the little blurb of it. Cerulean Jean is free everywhere except school, where they're known for repeatedly challenging authority, Raised in a free-spirited home by two loving parents who encouraged Cerulean to be their full self, they've got big dreams of moving cross-country to live off the grid with their friends after graduation. But a fight with a teacher spirals out of control, and Cerulean impulsively drops out to avoid the punishment they fear is coming. Why wait for graduation to leave an oppressive capitalist system and live their dreams? So, this book, number one, they've got a loving family. I feel like the emotional neglect in You're Breaking My Heart is just so palpable. It just hurts my heart because I feel it. I know what they mean. It's like the way that Harriet's mom is there but not really there. The just desperate desire for love and care, but also fear of people because you haven't experienced love and care and acceptance in your life. Just that, like it hurts so much. Just the way that her mom can only kind of love through food. And there's also this thing with her mom's obsession with Nigerian culture and kind of embracing of Nigerian culture, claiming that kind of kinghood. And there's that, symbolic image of the princess in the book. And this idea of how Black Americans have been violently and forcibly separated from their homeland, from their culture, and then even within Black American culture, which is very present in the book, there's this, pressure for that to be lost too, It's like there's so much, pressure where Black culture is being stolen, being appropriated, being AVEs, being used by little white girls on TikTok. It's being used. I'm probably using it in some of what I'm saying. And it's like, it's popular, but then there's not that love and support for Black people in America. There's not that respect. There's not that protection. There's not that understanding of how deeply racism harms us the way that slavery harms individual enslavement. If we want to go back to kind of the idea of the mom saying, well, no, it's not slaves, it's enslaved people. You write this essay, but then the mom is not protecting Harriet, not being like, Harriet, like, your brother shouldn't have said that, I'm so sorry. Like, the way that parents often are caught in this generational learning of neglect and abuse where they don't have the support and inner resources. Where the fuck is her dad? Where the fuck is her dad? But am I surprised? No, because even when the dad's present in a novel, oftentimes he's not even that present. Like, he's not even there. He's not even emotionally that important. And so, oh my gosh, coming back to Salt the Water. In this book at the end, I'm going to spoil it, essentially, Cerulean Jean just kind of disappears. Like, it literally ends with us not knowing where they are. They run away and are never seen again. And there's kind of this what's it called? Like, kind of like a protection maybe isn't the word, but this privacy, this sense of privacy that Candace Illo offers Cerulean, where they get to exist in the world somewhere away, like theoretically away from this capitalist oppressive system, but then can you ever really get away? Like, what does that mean? And so, in that case, it's like, you also think about this idea that, like, even when our parents love us, even if our parents loved us as unconditionally as we deserve, how can parents love their kids in their own oppression? Like, loving your kid who's being oppressed by systems outside of your control, it's like, what does that do to you? Like, how do you cope with your child being the victim of gun violence? Like, how do you cope with that, but then also show up for your other daughter? Most people can't do that. Most people don't do that because that's so fucking hard. Like, it's just, again, these impossible questions, these impossibilities. And so I get back to the I think in the ending parts, one of my favorite parts was the sitcom. I love the sitcom part because a big thing about this book, first of all, again, it's not diagnosing, it's it's noticing. It's just thinking about this book from an autistic lens. It's just spot on. Like, I think a different book that I read that was kind of capturing, I don't know if it was explicitly, I don't really know, but it felt like it was capturing the autistic experience in a more explicit way, a more like focused on it way, is Beautyland by Marie-Helene Bertino. And so in this book, essentially, the girl kind of is different. She is contacting these alien relatives and supposed to report about the oddities of Earthlings. And so she kind of like is an alien, you know, in the world. But then is she an alien or does she just feel like an alien? Like, that's a little confusing. That's kind of that in Beautyland. That's kind of that fantastical element that's not really explained or explored as deeply as you might think. But that's kind of how being autistic feels. It's like you're moving through the world, you're growing up, but then there's these things that you're observing and that just don't really make sense, and they seem so odd. And it's like, it's weird because it's like, technically you're a human, so like, why aren't you feeling the same things as them? But then it's like, something's different. And so I think especially with like Luke and Nika, like I felt that so much, where it's like Nika's just like, yeah, of course they're a nerd, like whatever, or like, of course, yeah, like whatever, I lied about knowing her, I like didn't want to hurt your feelings, you know, all these little kind of holistic like norms, you know. Or Luke showing up and being like, I'm, you know, Tunde told me to protect you, I'm here to protect you. And Harriet's like, what the fuck, bro, like you were gone for 8 months, like how am I supposed to trust you? And he's like, I'm here now. And it's, or Nika being like, cuz I got you. And it's like, you're like mean to me all the time, like I don't understand, like it's like, what, like kind of that thing where I think especially what struck me is when Luke was like, oh, of course, Harriet, there you go, always being so mean and so awful, like why do you have to be so mean and awful? And I'm like, oh my god, do you guys hear yourselves? But then apparently, well, I think there's like a few things. Number one, the huge thing that this book also brought up for me is the oppression of, like, what's it called? Like, oppression of, like power dynamics, and how they mean that some people are constantly misunderstood while other people are understood if you follow the status quo. Disparity and understanding, I don't know exactly how to explain it. Essentially, Harriet is not like everyone else. I don't mean like she's not like other girls, no, but like she seems more sensitive. She's really sensitive. She's been through a lot and she feels that very deeply. And you know, like they make fun of her for asking all these questions, but it's like when you're autistic, you know, not saying she's autistic, but if she's autistic or just kind of that feeling, you know, it's like you're asking questions because you don't understand what is going on. You don't understand what is happening. And so when, you know, maybe Luke and Nika just genuinely see it as like, oh, we're just joking around. That's what friends do. It's like, haha, hungry hippo, haha, whatever. Or it's like, haha, loser. But then Harriet feels that. Harriet feels hurt. Like, she feels it so deeply. And it's like, so then when she says something, quote unquote, mean back, when she fights back and protects herself, they're like, whoa, why are you attacking me? And it's like, you're constantly making these rude comments about me. You know, it's kind of like if someone was, you know, I think in families and in friendships, there's so many of these like normal types of violence and casual cruelty where it's like, for instance, commenting on people's weight is really common in a lot of families and a lot of, you know, even friendships. Just like, oh, I shouldn't eat anymore. Oh my gosh, you sure you want that? You sure you want that? Or it's like, you're looking a little heavy. You might wanna you know, take care of that. Oh my god, horrible. Like, it's literally that type of stuff, like, can sit with you and hurt you for so long, but then if you kind of quote unquote fight back or get upset, they're like, I was just trying to help. It's like this constant, essentially, when you are living in a marginalized body and in a marginalized experience, there's this constant feeling of gaslighting. It's like you're constantly being gaslit, because it's like, you know, it's like I'm not allowed to say the reality, but you are. You're allowed to be mean, but I'm not allowed to be mean. You know, I think about this a lot with racism, where it's like white people will say the most fucking insane shit. They'll say the most crazy ass shit. And if you call them out on it, they'll be like, that wasn't my intention. I'm not racist. Like, it doesn't even register as racism to them. It doesn't even register as racist. They don't understand. You understand. And it's like, oh my god, I'm gonna lose my fucking mind, because it's like, doesn't even feel like a point of bringing it up. It's like, doesn't matter how hurt you are, doesn't matter how upset you are. It's like, there's literally not space in the room for your feelings to exist. Because if you act out in the intense rage that you feel and the deep emotions that you feel, you are likely just going to be stigmatized and harmed further. Not always, but that's how it feels, because it feels like no one believes you, no one understands you. And one thing I do love about this book is that it's not centering whiteness. The whole book is not about them having to deal with, you know, internalized racism and deal with white people saying crazy ass shit and being crazy and all this stuff. I just thought of another book that kind of, it doesn't exactly capture what I'm describing, but it does show kind of more interracial relationships and just the craziness of it. But We Deserve Monuments by Jazz Hammonds. That one I feel like has some queer romance, yeah, and some like, it's not as like, it's more of like, I don't say a conventional YA book, but You're Breaking My Heart is pretty unconventional in ways that I think are really cool. But again, I'm going to spoil this book, but in Jazz Hammond's book, in We Deserve Monuments, essentially 3 girls become friends, and 2 of them are going to be a little romantic because they're gay, haha. But one of them's a white girl, and later they find out this white girl is like the granddaughter or the daughter of like, I think the people that literally like harmed Jazz's family, like racistly. Again, I'm not remembering this fully right, but essentially like this book, again, it's not as much about necessarily the subtle things that white people do that's racist, which I think are also really violent, but I think what it kind of captures is, I feel like white people, they love to be like, well, should we really be paying for what our ancestors did? Like, that was so long ago. Or they like to kind of, especially like white liberals, they love to be like, oh, I hate that I'm white. Like, oh, I hate that I'm white. And I'm doing all these things to help people of color, and it's so horrible what you guys go through, and da-da-da. And like, just like, oh, like, I don't know, it's just weird. But for a lot of people, I think, or, you know, the white people are like, yeah, my grandma's racist, but da-da-da-da-da-da-da. It's always something. And kind of what I think about is that there is a lack of authenticity in our society and a lack of shared reality, a lack of ability to accept these difficult truths about us and our complicity, and to be really fucking real about it and real about the energy exchanges going on. And so it's like Harriet might genuinely love and care about Luke and Nick in a way that's just really like deep, but will they have the capacity to love her in the same way? Or will they never really understand her and always just marginalize her in one way or another, to see her as a burden? That fucking sucks. Like, that fucking sucks. And so back to like kind of the white people thing, which is really tangential, but I think related, is the truth is America, like, never really, like, I don't say that, I have too many thoughts. But I think what I'm getting at is a lot of people prioritize comfort, especially in our society. We prioritize comfort and convenience over human decency, over care, over morality. And part of this comfort, this need for comfort, is avoiding pain, is avoiding feeling bad about yourself. And so I think white people being like, no, I'm a good person. Like, I'm a good person. Like, I love my family. I love it. It's like, oh, so you only love and exist in spaces that would feel actively oppressive to me. Okay, cool. I'm like, live your life. You are your own person. But it's like, are you willing to acknowledge the reality of your life? You know, like, are we willing to acknowledge that the clothes we wear, the food we eat, the way in which the United States is set up, the way in which especially New York City is set up, you know, like, I maybe not especially, but in my brain, New York City is like the capital of capitalism, which I'm not a New York City person. Please don't come for me. I don't know. But like, our comfort is structured around the oppression of others and the destruction of the natural environment. Period. Like, it is. And I love this quote that is from We Will Be Jaguars, which is by, let me find the name. We Will Be Jaguars by Nomonte Nanquimo. And it says, essentially, she is an indigenous activist. She is in the Amazon rainforest. That's where she grew up. And essentially, she says, like, where she grew up has been threatened by oil companies. And she says, we are threatening what makes the cars move, what makes the planes fly. We are threatening the white people's comfort, their very idea of happiness. For us to win, the judges will have to betray their own people, betray the government that pays their salaries, betray the cities where they were born. She also says, I lived for many years in the Cowrie world. Cowrie means not her people, like, not just the white people, but also like just non-indigenous people. But yeah, kind of white people. Like, yeah. I tried to imitate them, become like them, please them. I was wrong. I was confused. The Cowrie are not better than us. They are afraid of us. We remind them of what they have forgotten. They don't hear the voices of their ancestors anymore. They don't plant their own food. They don't give birth in they give birth in hospitals. They don't live in communities. They try to conquer us, not because they are better, but because deep down, they are afraid. And so, for the characters in You're Breaking My Heart, they are facing these things too. They don't hear their ancestors' voices. They don't plant their own food. They kind of live in communities, but there's these divides. You feel the tension. You feel the tension between Harriet's mom and her sister. You feel the tension, between Luke, Nika, and Harriet. It's like, it's not community. It's community in a sense, but also not community where they are able to bring their full selves forward. But there's also, I think olugbemisola kind of also has little love notes written to New York City in this book, about little moments where even within this capitalist landscape, even within this, world that doesn't really make sense, this world where your brother can get shot in a school cafeteria, there are moments and glimmers of joy, moments of laughter, ways that we connect, ways that we love, ways that we feel okay, even when nothing feels okay. Even when the people who are closest to us in life don't really know us. Where the people who are supposed to love us unconditionally maybe don't even know how to love themselves. Where there's this deep loss of culture and community and knowing where one has come from and how that lives in our body, how it follows us. We carry it with us. And even within all of that, we find joy, we find connection, we find these, I would call it more glimmers. I think I'd call it glimmers. And so I think what I love is that a lot of YA books, again, what they kind of do is they'll have someone going through a hard situation and then they'll find a special friend, or sometimes even worse, like a romantic interest, which I love YA romance. Don't get me wrong, I love a YA romance, but kind of when you're showing to young kids that the way to escape or heal from your problems is only through a romance, that can be really damaging and really concerning, and they can get really intense. And so I kind of was wondering if that's what's going to happen with Harriet and Alicia, where it's like you find this special friend, you find someone who you feel like really gets you, which, again, I feel like is such an autistic experience, such a neurodivergent experience, where it's like, wow, like, there are other people like me, there are people who are interested in the things I'm interested in, who don't treat me poorly, who, talk the way I talk, who laugh the way I laugh, joke about the things I like, read the same books as me. Like, oh my god, it's like I've been living my whole life feeling like an alien. I didn't know that there were other aliens. And I think someone who captures this type of experience really well is Alice Oseman. I think Alice Oseman does an amazing job capturing those friendships amongst, all these weird and challenging and difficult things going on, where, you feel so alone, and then you find someone, you're like, wow. Shout out to Radio Silence. And then also, I think Loveless also kind of features friendship in a really beautiful way, but I think especially Radio Silence kind of captures that feeling and how it can get really intense, but then also be so meaningful. But what I love is that olugbemisola makes it very clear that no one can save Harriet but Harriet. And that in this book, Harriet can't even save Harriet fully. It's like, or maybe she's on the beginning, I don't know. But it's like, sometimes in books, like, there's really deep things happening, there's really painful things happening. And then they're like, and then everything was okay. And then everything was okay. And it's like, no, not actually. Which, again, they're books. They're books, but I think there's something so delightful about this space where, you know, everything doesn't have to be good. Everything doesn't have to be amazing. But can we be honest about that? Can we say these terrifying thoughts that we have, these terrifying experiences we have out loud, and accept that? You know? Can we sit with that? Can we learn to live with that? Wow. Like, that in and of itself is so difficult. So incredibly difficult. There's so many people, grown adults, lived decades and decades, who have these fears, have these anxieties, have these horrible deep traumas and pains. These horrible pains that they never address. They never learn to sit with their pain, and so it keeps showing up in different ways. Maybe they're neglectful. Maybe they have unhealthy romantic relationships. Maybe they are constantly in a mode of distraction and avoidance. And so I think just for Harriet, that first step of just saying, this is who I am, and it's really fucking terrifying being real about that, is really powerful. You know, this, sometimes you it's so awful. Shame does this terrible thing to you where you feel like, not only do you feel like you're not deserving of love, especially if you've never really experienced love in your life, but you feel like you don't, like, you aren't a good person. You know, shame kind of warps our behavior and just makes us feel like shit and scared of accepting who we are with compassion and kindness, and knowing that we can also grow beyond that. It doesn't mean I'm perfect, but it means I exist. And then back to the autistic thing, a moment, it's on page 368, where they're all crying together, and Harriet finally tells them that thinks she's the reason that she killed Tunde, which, even though we know that that's not, like, doesn't make logical sense, that's the type of thing that it makes emotional sense. Like, it feels like you did. And then, even if she didn't kill Tunde, even if that never even happened, there's that pain of, my brother's dead, but also, what am I grieving? You know, it's like, he was really mean to me a lot of times. He made me feel really bad about myself. How do I hold both of those truths, that I miss him, and part of me maybe did want him dead sometimes, did hate him? You know, how do we grieve the imperfect people in our lives that are important to us? I think there's not enough. There's so many books and movies that are like, my mom was the best person in the world, my dad was the best person in the world, and then they died, and I miss them so much, and they had such a big impact on my life. What about the people who never, you know, grieving the people, the family members, for what they weren't in our life, grieving what they never will have a chance to be in our lives, grieving a future where there's mending and healing? Like, grief is so complex. Grief is so complicated, and I haven't really read that many books that really just capture that, and just how absurd it feels sometimes. Like, it feels so absurd. It's like, we all know we're gonna die. Like, we're all gonna die. But yet we walk around acting like that's not gonna happen. But then if every second of every day we're thinking about how we're gonna die, we'd also go fucking insane. You know, like, what even is life, you know? But with the autistic part, it's like Harriet's just crying. Or not, Harriet's not even crying. Nika starts crying. And it's like, I'm sorry, I'm so sorry. And then Luke is also crying. And the voice said, "Why are you like this? They are going through the worst pain in you." And then Nika says, "I'm so sorry we let you live in that kind of pain. I'm so sorry. I should have reached out. I should have seen. I should have known." And then Luke says, "He literally asked me to look out for you whenever he wasn't around. I'm the one who let you down, who let him, Tunde, down." In a red flash, the old bile and rage rises in my throat. "Why do you both have to make everything about you? It's sick, you know. It's sick, sick, sick. I said it. I did it. Do you hear me? I said it. I did it." Now I'm crying, but there aren't any tears, just dry, choked sobs, and I double over, holding my stomach, squeezing my eyes shut. I feel them come to either side of me, but I can't stop dry heaving. And then I hear my own voice screaming, "I said it, I did it," over and over. I don't feel my mouth moving, but that's me, and she won't stop. I cover my ears. "I said it, I did it, I said it, I did it, I said I did it, I did it, I said I did it. Shut up, shut up, shut up, shut up, shut up." Who's that? It sounds like me, and it sounds like the voice, and it sounds like Luke and Nika. "I said it, I did it, I 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 did it." I open my eyes, and they're saying it too, yelling it with me, and then the tears flow and flow and flow. They're crying too. My mouth opens to ask again why they're making this about them again. But I'm tired, and I don't want to hold this, because it's too much, it's too big, it's too heavy. It's so much, it's too big, it's too heavy. No matter how many selves I am, none of me can hold this. None of this makes sense. So we cry and cry and cry. God. So like when I'm feeling a lot of pain, when I'm feeling a lot of hurt, and then I tell someone, and then they kind of are like, "Wow, I can't imagine going through that," or like, "I'm sorry," but they're like, I think especially with death, a lot of times people, whether they realize it or not, make it about themselves. You know, it's like, I remember hearing these people talking, and they were like, "I just can't imagine losing a parent. I just can't imagine, like, my parents dying. I need them so much." You know, because, like, this girl was like, "Guys, my friend's mom is dying from cancer. I don't know what to do. I'm so stressed. I don't know how to support her." And then, yeah, they're all like, "Yeah, I can't imagine that. That must be so hard. Like, I need my parents so much." And it finally clicked in my head. I was like, why did it always feel so heavy when I told people that my dad died? And they'd be like, "I'm sorry." They'd be like, "Oh, that must be so hard." Or they're like, "Oh, well, at least he's in heaven." It felt so inauthentic, and it felt like they were just asking, like, I didn't have space to mourn, you know? There was no space. It's like they wanted to feel good about supporting me more than they wanted me to feel good. I think that's also kind of Luke's character in this book. And then also Nika kind of being like, "Well, like, I'm doing all this for you. I'm sacrificing all this. I don't even want to hang out with you." Oh my God, that sucks. Like, no, like, you're doing this for your ego, for your self-image of goodness. Again, comfort. It's all back to comfort. But I understood why their sympathy never really, like, felt good with my grief. I know it's a way that people try to connect, but I think for me, when I'm grieving, when I'm in pain, I can't hold other people's emotions. I need someone to hold me. I need someone to sit with me and be like, same, I get it. I've been there too. Or maybe even, I don't get it, but I care about you. I'm gonna take care of you in this way. You know, like, not expecting me to hold space for their discomfort, not expecting me to hold space for their emotion. And I think with the parents dying, with, you know, a brother dying, it's like people are uncomfortable with grief because they are avoiding their own pain, they're avoiding their own grief, or they're avoiding the idea of their own eventual grief. And so it's like, of course you can't empathize with me. You're terrified of me. You're terrified of what I represent. And so I think that's also kind of the white people being like, I can't imagine how hard it must be being you. Like, I can't imagine how hard it must be. I can't imagine how hard it must be your brother died, whatever. And it's kind of like, there's this very isolating aspect to that. It's like, you can't even imagine. You're not willing to imagine. Or you're not willing to empathize with me. Or you're not willing for the discomfort and pain that might cause you to empathize with me, to imagine that you could have been me. And so I think we come back to the book at the part where everyone's being really mean to Nika and Luke at the prom. And I do feel like, I don't know, again, this got drawn out a little bit more, and then I got kind of lost, but then I kind of fucked with it. Mixed feelings, but like, Harriet's just disbelief of like, y'all, this is my every fucking day life, and y'all are here still being mean and complaining, like there's no empathy. There's no empathy. There's no understanding. It's like when white people be like, yeah, I was in this room, you know, it's all people of color, and I just felt so isolated. I felt so alone. Oh my God, get over it. like the petty part of me is just like, get the fuck over it. It's like, people of color deal with this shit every day, and you're over here complaining. But then what I realize in those moments, when I have a moment to step back and take some deep breaths, is it's like, we don't deserve to live with this pain either. It's like sometimes when we're taught not to take up space, we feel angry when other people who never were told that they had to be small take up space, because it's like, it feels like there's a competition. It feels like there's not enough space for all of us to exist. And what I realize is that ideally there's space for all of us to exist in our authenticity, in our pain, in our full realness. There's space for the white person, which maybe some of you will be like, I don't agree. I don't really care about white people. And that's totally valid. You don't need to care about white people. I do. It's tiring. I don't know why I do. I do. I care about all people. It's a lot. But a white person might say, yeah, I felt uncomfortable in that room. I felt like I didn't fit in. And then I could say, hey, that's a hard feeling. But when you say that to me, honestly, I feel like you're asking me to empathize with you. And I don't have a lot of energy for empathy with you, when that's kind of my daily experience moving through the world as a person of color, in a way that I feel like, based on you telling me this, looking for empathy, maybe you don't get. You see? No, everyone's emotions can exist, but we are living in different realities. And so it's like, Luke and Nika are totally unaware of Harriet's daily reality. They're not even aware, and then Harriet is so caught in her shame, caught in her pain. The idea that they would even care, which maybe they wouldn't, but the idea that they would even care, that even thinking of her saying, listen, these jokes, they might seem funny to you, but to me, they really hurt. I don't feel like I fit in anywhere. I don't feel like I belong, and when y'all say these things, I don't feel good. I don't feel like you can care about me, and you say you care about me, but it doesn't feel like it because you make me feel like a burden. Because I remind you of the parts of yourself that you are not willing to accept. I think there's that part where she's like, was Tunde playing chess with me and like playing games with me the moments where he didn't have to be cool? You know, it's like, you're so scared of not being cool. You're so scared of existing in your full self that you feel the need to impress others? Damn. And so I feel like a simplistic kind of moral from the story is like, don't, hurt others just because they hurt you. I don't know. Like, I don't know if that's actually like a moral from the story. I just kind of like got that feeling with the whole like prom dance thing being so intense. I also don't really know where Alicia's character was going. I felt like it was going somewhere, and then I kind of lost that string. But ultimately, I feel like, again, the scene where they're all saying it together, I said it, I did it, I said it, I did it, I said it, I did it. And then Harriet's also like, shit, the voice? Is that actually my voice? Has it been my voice the whole time? They're all saying it together. There's something there where it's, maybe they don't understand. Maybe they will never understand Harriet. But in that moment, they genuinely are existing with her and her pain. they're there with her. They're crying with her. They're stepping outside of their, oh, I'm so sorry, like, I should have done better. You know, it's like when you tell your mom, you're like, Mom, you're hurting me. And then the mom's like, I'm such a bad mother. I'm so sorry. I'm such a bad mother. Or, you know, like the boyfriend's like, you're like, hey, stop doing this. Stop hurting me. And they're like, I'm just such a terrible person. It's a way to deflect responsibility and genuine accountability and change. But in this moment, when they're screaming and crying together, when, even if they don't get it, even if their attempts at care have really sucked and not made the intended effect, even though even then Harriet feels like they're making it about them, I feel like sometimes you just have to exist in it. You know, these don't have to be the people in your life forever, but right now they're there with her. They're there with her in the trenches, and there's this huge, big, heavy thing that they're all holding. This huge thing that they can't hold. Like, grief, death never makes sense. Like, it just never fucking makes sense, especially something so, like, horrendous as, you know, shooting. Like, you just gotta cry. You just gotta, like, exist in it. And that's something I love about this book, is the insistence on existing in it rather than escaping. The insistence on there being, you know, at the very end, it almost looks like a poem. Toward mama and chess and pepper soup and french fries and pizza. Toward wardrobe lions and roller coasters. Toward that movie about the pig and singing off key. Toward the park and the peace fountain and hanging out with me and my girls. Toward the stories and the songs and dumplings and laughing and crying together. Towards my big brother and memories. Toward the little girl who gave me the map to find my way home. I've got many waters to cross. I keep swimming. Existing in it. Acknowledging and appreciating these glimmers, these moments of something. This is not about, you know, this is not selling us some, oh, everything's gonna be okay. Oh, this grief goes away. Oh, you know, I fell in love and now I'm happy now. Or this other person loves me. You know, I made this friend and they love me and accept me in all the ways I never could and now everything's good. No. This shit's heavy. This is heavy. But it's not just heaviness. And I think that final line, I keep swimming, it just captures it. It's like, well, what are we gonna do? What are we gonna do? You know? It's like we can spend our whole lives trying to escape ourselves. Or are we gonna exist in our bodies and swim towards somewhere better? And also some of the comments in Goodreads were like, maybe not swim towards somewhere better, but I think it's like becoming the something better, in a sense. Maybe better is not the right word, but becoming someone who is able to accept more love, becoming someone who is able to acknowledge these deep wounds and pains that are just holding us down. Being able to find people who genuinely love and care about us, not because we're special, not because we're family, but because they want to, because they like us, because we are compatible. Beautiful things, because we are living in our abundant joy. We're living individually in our abundant joy and can meet in the center, meet in the middle of that. Oh my God. That we can tend to each other's spiritual growth. Come on. That's not where this book is at. That's not where Harriet's at. And that's okay. And I love that olugbemisola lets her be there. She doesn't have to, be on the other side of a million waterways. She can just be in the water. The cover, gorgeous. Fucking love the color. Oh, the cover. Oh my god. But I guess, so many thoughts. But I think the last thing that I'm kind of just thinking about is, some of the commenters on Goodreads were like, there's too many references to songs and movies. I don't understand what's going on. Whatever. Whatever. Like, sometimes books do have references to songs and movies in a way that I feel like is very, I don't want to say dated, but it's like, if you're referencing really recent things in a kind of lackluster way in your book, that then I read this book in a couple, 3, 4, 5 years, and it's going to feel out of date. That's not the best. I don't love that. But I think for me, even though a lot of these songs and movies are not things I personally recognize, they are so important. Music and movies and art are so important to not just a cultural landscape, but also to a personal landscape. And I think that's what the author is creating, the way in which sometimes these works of art, these places where we let ourselves feel. Our society doesn't let us feel. Our society doesn't give space to feeling. But that's where we often, have space to connect to emotion, connect to these deep experiences. Like, I got a little sick of it, but there's just times where Harriet can be like, I'm not in a book. Haha, stop being silly, I'm not in a book. And it's like, you are in a book, I get it, ha ha ha. Like, oh my gosh. But this book, is a way that I am able to connect with so many feelings, so many thoughts, so many experiences. And inherently, when reading a book, each person is interpreting the book through the modality of their own perspective, their own associative understanding of the world, their own cultural references, their own understanding of themselves, understandings of their own feeling, and ability to empathize based on that. And so there's so many things that I probably missed because me and the author do not live the same exact lives. And so we don't all have the same imaginations because we don't all have the same realities. We don't all have the same realities that we live in. And so I find it even interesting, like in that kind of one of the final scenes, when she says, and for a minute this reminds me of the Nollywood movie we'd all watched. The last movie night we'd had together when the main character had acid thrown on her right before her wedding, and the funeral service was interrupted by Auntie's wailing. Just such a small thing. But like, it's the way that movies and books and songs can capture our emotions and experiences and communicate them in ways that sometimes words cannot. I remember talking to someone. I remember like, damn, that's like Get Out. Or I remember walking into a room and I was like, oh my gosh, this feels like I'm in Midsommar. I haven't even seen Midsommar or Get Out, but like, you immediately know what they mean. You know what they mean. There's this shorthand to communicate these really big and complicated, confusing feelings. Like, reading this book for a second, I was like, oh, does this remind me of Everything Everywhere All at Once? It actually doesn't. They feel very, very different to me. But art becomes shorthand for larger, more complex feelings, for things that we're honestly not that good about talking about directly. It gives us space to really navigate and negotiate and understand our experiences and the details. And so, like, I totally relate to that feeling of, like, you're talking to someone or you're doing something, then you're like, oh wow, this reminds me of just a very particular moment, but that kind of makes up your world, you know? It's like, not everyone lives with this world that you do. Like, it sounds so obvious, but it's like, it sounds so obvious, but like, even the, I don't know, like the thing where Nika and Harriet, and Nika's like, Luke doesn't get it, he didn't grow up with the same stories as us, you know, and they were trying to make a Tessa like A Wrinkle in Time, like, totally makes sense. It's like, art is, you know, the references to the Wizard of Oz, to the Wiz, to Alice in Wonderland, just these little roses, to these different works that influence our cultural, our social, our individual imagination so much. And I think that's part of why I love the sitcom section so much, is because it's poking fun at that whole, you know, it's poking fun at the whole sitcom style and different components of a sitcom, but it's also able to capture things that are hard to just put into straight words. Like, it wouldn't hit the same. Like, it's hard to explain, but kind of, especially the, yep, that's me. You may be wondering how I got here. One day, you're a regular teenager just minding your business when the worst happens. She's hit by bird droppings from overhead. Laugh track. Nope, not that. Cut to Tunde's funeral. Yeah, that was pretty bad, but not even that. Cut to Harriet yelling, I wish you were dead, into a void. Yeah, that part. Now all I have to do is keep my cousin from finding out, because then all hell will break loose. She looks at camera. Literally. Like, it's so ridiculous. But I feel like that's the part that I love so much, because grief is ridiculous. Sometimes we need the humor. We need the comedy, you know, to get through it. Like, I used to have this joke where, well, it wasn't fully a joke, but it was like, someone was like, if you were in your house, you need to take one thing out of your house is burning on fire, what would you take? And I would joke and I'd be like, oh, I take my dad's ashes. I don't want him to burn twice. Or like, you want to meet my dad? He's upstairs in an urn. Or like, my dad's urn is in my mom's bedroom. It's the first time they've slept together in years. Like, so dumb. It's so dumb. And I think at some points humor did like act as like a huge coping strategy where I avoided real painful feelings. But also it's like, damn, like, if we can't laugh about this, like, if we can't laugh through grief, like, we're never gonna fucking laugh. Do you know what I mean? Like, sometimes also just life feels like a sitcom. Like, back to the white people saying things. There are times where like white people say things and I just like, I want a TV audience to look at and be like, did you hear what she said? Like, did you hear that? Am I hearing things? Like, that was crazy. And I want a laugh track to play. Like, I remember walking into this room and this white girl's just like, you know, my roommate's Mexican. I know because my roommate's Mexican. And it's like, oh. Like, I don't even need to hear the first part of that statement. I know she's on some racist bullshit logic that makes no fucking sense. The same girl asked everyone in my group who was a person of color, oh, where are you from? Oh, my friend looks like you. You look just like my friend. Like, I need the film, like, I need the movie montage of that and the laugh track, because I don't have time to be enraged all the time. I don't have time to be sad all the time. Like, feel my feelings, yes, but sometimes I want to cry and then I want to laugh. Sometimes I laugh and then I want to cry. Sometimes I want to laugh and then scream and then cry. Like, I want to feel it all. And I think also sometimes comedy acts as a vessel for these really difficult emotions that we don't know how to deal with. And also I think the archetyping, the comparing like real life to books and media, I think for a lot of autistic people, That's sometimes how we understand the world. It's like we don't intuitively understand these social cues or structures or things. And so reading books and movies, like, literally, like, is how I get things, because that's not how most books and movies don't necessarily represent my life, you know, or like a lot of them don't, also having to do with representation and things, and just, I think, the ability in comedy to say really absurd things that matter. Like Nika saying, "No, Kazo, wait, you're already drowning, don't you see? You're already drowning, don't you see?" Like, or Luke saying, "Did somebody say save?" Laugh track. Like, come on. Come on. I love it. Or just Harriet, like, being able to, in this sitcom, you know, say that she's the reason Tunde's dead, and for them to just be like, no, 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 and then Luke being like, this is a profound moment. Come on. Like, it heightens the painful comedy of how sometimes we are so married to our truths, to these shame-based truths, that we can't even enjoy how ridiculous they are. Like, it sucks. Like, it genuinely sucks. Like, I don't want to make light of anyone's struggle and pain, but it's like, you know, it's like, oh, I think my whole family's gonna die if I don't turn this light off, like, 70 million times. Like, horrible. Like, not good, but also, like, when you let yourself just accept yourself and be easy and be like, it's a little funny. Like, it's a little funny. Like, I realized an autistic thing that I was doing is, like, I was training to be a boy. Like, I was like interning as being a boy. I was like, okay, what do boys do? Okay, I'm gonna play basketball, and I'm gonna skateboard, and this is interesting. Like, I'm gonna talk to boys, make boyfriends, so I can, like, understand, like, what I missed out on by not growing up as a boy. And then later I was talking to someone, I was like, yeah, I just realized I was, like, interning as a boy. I was trying to see what it's like being a boy, and I was like, that's so crazy that I did that. But it's like, I did do it, and it was important to me, and I don't know, like, I wanted to know. But it's, like, also kind of funny, you know? And I think in this scene, when, like, in the sitcom scene, that's also the only place, because it's imaginary. Well, again, the whole book's fiction, but, like, it's a way for Harriet also sort of to implicitly acknowledge how much her mom not being there hurts. There's not space, an emotional space in the book for her to tell that to her mom, but in this sitcom, where there's those, you know, sitcom logic rules, her mom's the one who says, I haven't been there for you. I haven't been there for me. I didn't think I could. And then Harriet's able to say, again, in this sitcom, in the emotional space of a sitcom, which has certain, you know, sentimentality and and whatever, and it's just kind of like, you know it's going to be okay. I thought you didn't love me anymore, that you couldn't love me without Tunde. And then Mama says, but I made all this food, laugh track. I'm almost there, Harriet. It's like, shit. Shit. It's like, I have this joke where I'm like, guys, people need to stop making movies about their parents accepting them when they're gay. Wait, that's not quite right. Like no, like, they don't need to stop, but it's like, there's so many, I feel like, immigrant narrative movies. I'm thinking about Everything Everywhere All at Once, but also other movies where it's like really, really painful, really, really painful how your parents treat you and how your parents aren't able to love you unconditionally the way that you deserve, the way that they are able to be there and emotionally support all your needs, which I think a lot of parents don't have the capacity to and don't know how to and don't. And it sucks. And then it's like, at the very end, parents like, I'm sorry, I accept you, and, you know, you're gay, faggot, whatever. And it's like, I'm not saying that this doesn't happen. It totally happens. But I think sometimes there's this narrative desire for acceptance that doesn't always feel emotionally true or just true to everyone's experiences, you know? It's like, well, what about the people whose parents never accept them, and you have to pick up your life and find something better, where you want something better? What does that look like? You know, that's a lot of a scarier question. It's a scarier thing because, you know, your parents, your family holds so much for us. I think that's what this book is really giving space to, is that these imperfect people, sometimes even abuseful, neglective people, hold so much space in our life. The idea of leaving that is terrifying. The idea of going beyond just coping is kind of terrifying. It's not even in the question of the book, but in our imagination, there's still that part of us that so deeply desires to be loved, to be seen, to be cared for by these people in our life who we are so currently connected to. And so having it in a sitcom, this kind of idea of a sitcom mom, it's like actually really fucking sad now that I'm thinking about it. Like, really sad that, like, the only place where her mom probably will apologize to her is in a sitcom. Like, I don't know. I feel like her mom also as a character, like, I wanted just, like, one more beat with her. Like, I just wasn't quite fully there. Like, her telling that folktale felt like almost like she wasn't real in that moment. Like, I don't even know. But I think that is the heartbreak. That's the heartbreak of emotional abuse and emotional neglect, is that, and it's really hard for people to understand because they're like, well, these people, like, aren't treating you good. Why do they matter so much to you? And it's like, emotional neglect and abuse, they isolate you in such a way, and regardless of what your childhood is like, that is your childhood, those are your experiences, that it's hard to imagine something better, you know? It's like Harriet gets glimmers of joy and fun and acceptance, but then it's hard to imagine that other people get to go to sleep with full stomachs every night, full of that shit. Like, you know, there's, like, those moments where her mom shows her moments of tenderness, and they mean so much to her, and they hurt so much because she wants more, but she can't ask for it. It's, like, crazy the fact that, like, some kids get that shit, like, all day, every day. Like, it's impossible. It's impossible for her to imagine. The most that she can imagine is that moment of her mom's apology. It's impossible for her to imagine that she deserves more than this, because realizing that this is not enough, realizing not only that this is not enough, but that I have to live with this like how do I explain this? There is no magical escape. There is no place you can go to escape yourself. In doing that, you're not yourself. These current memories, these pains, these griefs, these people, they make up who we are. How we choose to navigate that, like, that's part of who we are, but what you can do is grow beyond that. You're still in the world's still oppressive, all these things are true, but multiple truths can exist at the same time. And so, where does that lead us? Where does that lead us? What would that look like? You know, there's this quote from Adrienne Marie Brown. She's like, let me find it, guys. I don't know, like, I'm acting like I have a podcast. Love this shit. She says, when we imagine the world we want to shift towards, are we dreaming of being the winners of the future? Are we dreaming of a world where winning is no longer necessary because there are no enemies? God. Fucking love this woman. And so it's like that beyond world that maybe mirrors the real world more than we like to admit, or maybe that we already admit and we already feel, whatever. There's still winners and losers there. You know, there's the whole rats thing going on. There's the kids who are serving, and it's like, there's the way that they treat, you know, Luke and Nika horribly. even if it mirrors ways that they've been treated, it's like, that's not, is that really escaping, or is that just recreating the same shit, just different people in power? Which is still meaningful in a sense. You know, I think that when you've been so neglected and abused and isolated, like, knowing that people can easily accept you, whoa, like, that's a groundbreaking moment. But then also, it's not genuine. They don't really like her. They don't really know her. They don't really care about her. And so I think that also subtly is getting at the idea that Luke and Nika and Tunde, they might have been popular. They might be popular, but it's like, do these people really care about them? You know, there's a whole scalene triangle thing where Harriet's like noticing the dynamics between Nika and her friends. And it's like, oh, wow, like, Nika's not in charge here. It's like, there's kind of these different levels. And it's like, even though some people more easily fit into our normative society and are privileged because of that, they are still, like, isolating themselves from their full selves. Like, they're able to easily be accepted, but then that also kind of prevents them and makes it harder for them to break out into being their true authentic selves that not everyone's gonna like. Like, not everyone's gonna like you. You don't have to like everyone. That's okay. And so I think, it's just so many thoughts. Essentially, where does our imagination take us? Where does our imagination take us? And then I'm going to also end on some more Adrienne Marie Brown quotes, because I just need to. I believe that all organizing is science fiction, that we are shaping the future we long for and have not yet experienced. I am arguing that this book is using fantasy elements and magical realism, whatever you want to call it, not as a way to imagine futures we haven't experienced and want to experience, but actually as a subversive way to try to embody the reality of what Harriet is experiencing. To try to capture the way that grief makes us feel fucking crazy and isolated and insane and connected to people, but then are we really connected, you know, in the healthiest ways? The way that grief, like, and not just grief, but all these different forms of oppression and isolation just come together in these ways that can often feel absurd and ridiculous and crazy, and just like, why is emotional neglect of children so normal? Why is it so normal? And why don't we have the language to deal with this and talk about it, you know? Like, it's absurd. It's genuinely absurd. And then some other quotes. Do you already know that your existence, who and how you are, is in and of itself a contribution to the people and place around you? Not after or because you do some particular thing, but simply the miracle of your life. And that the people around you and the places have contributions as well? Do you understand that your quality of life and your survival are tied to how authentic and generous the connections between you and the people and place you live with and in? Are you actively practicing generosity and vulnerability in order to make the connections between you and others clear, open, available, durable? Generosity here means giving of what you have without strings or expectations attached. Vulnerability means showing your needs. God. I fucking love this quote. Oh my gosh. I love this quote. And remember, you are water. Of course you leave salt trails. Of course you are crying. Flow. P.S. If there happen to be a multitude of griefs upon you, individual and collective, fast and slow, small and large, add equal parts of these considerations. That the broken heart can cover more territory. That perhaps love can only be as large as grief demands. That grief is the growing up of the heart that bursts boundaries like an old skin or a finished life. That grief is gratitude. That water seeks scale. That even your tears seek the recognition of community. that the heart is a front line and the fight is to feel in a world of distraction, that death might be the only freedom, that your grief is a worthwhile use of your time, that your body will feel only as much as it is able to, that the ones you grieve may be grieving you, that the sacred comes from the limitations, that you are excellent at loving. And finally, I touch my own skin, and it tells me that before there was any harm, there was miracle. Thank you so much for listening. I don't know if you're listening. My throat hurts. And thank you so much to olugbemisola, rhuday, perkovich, for writing this wondrous novel of a book. This wondrous just piece of heart and mind and humor and relationships. Just thank you for writing it, for being vulnerable enough to write it. I know in the author's note you said it took years. Good. Like, writing takes years, writing takes time. Like, I'm glad that you gave it time to grow, and I gotta check out some more of your stuff, because this was something special. It was really special. And I'm so glad there was no, like, romance between Luke and Harriet beyond the, like, kind of feeling of undesirability and crush, because, like, I don't think I could have handled that. That would have been too much. Like, it just wasn't happening. But just genuinely have never seen relationships and just the complexity and pain, but also, I think, going back to Adrienne Marie Brown, just the way that Harriet is able to see and feel just the presence and importance of the people around her. And it's not really about what they do, more so just the miracle of their lives and relationships, but then also the pain and distance. And then I haven't even gotten into this desire to be special and how that harms us, which the quote that kept coming back to me by Adrienne Marie Brown is, "No one is special and everyone is needed." No one is special and everyone is needed. Thank you for writing this book. Maybe other people won't think it's special, and that's okay. Maybe it's not special, but it was needed, and it means a lot. And just so much hearts and love to Harriet. I hope she knows that she doesn't have to be special, but she's still needed. But I think that's all my thoughts for now. They're kind of, you can't tell, they're all in a web. They're all intersecting. They're all going every which way. But I think especially the first half of the book, just love it. Like, just that first moment when she gets pulled underwater, and this is the second one when she sees Tunde. I felt like I just, like, went through a trap door in the book, and I was like, I did not think this was gonna happen. This is crazy. Like, what is going on? Like, I felt like whoosh, like I was somewhere else. And throughout the book, I was with Harriet the whole time. I was there with her. I fell with her. I fell for her, and I understand. Grief makes you do crazy things. Thank you for sharing this without shame and just letting this story exist. Take care. Peace and blessings upon you and everyone listening. And may your life be full of joy and wellness and healing, however that may be.